Hey guys, my name is Dontez Lindsay. I am the General Manager of Ducks Trading LLC, as well as the lead trainer of StockCraft. Before I go any further, I just want to say I am not a financial advisor, and this content is for entertainment purposes only. Now we're going to go into the breakdown of the content to where today we're pretty much going to go over the last month worth of trades that I didn't actually trade, but there was an opportunity to take a trade. At the end of the day, I stuck to my ideals and I sat on my hands and I didn't make a trade. I didn't overtrade. There is a slight amount of regret after seeing the result, but I'd rather have what I did than take that extra loss, is what I want to say. But you could definitely tell I'm salty. Without further ado, let's get into the content. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the fundamentals of the tickers we're going to talk about today. Out of like these runners, I just want to say, in a bigger picture, the SPY, the QQQ, and things like that, they have an indirect relationship to what happens in penny stocks. And so the penny stocks we're going to go over today, which would be about like 5, maybe 6 tops, we'll talk about how they had the space, the range for me to go in and short or to trade them, but at the same time it's not ideal, and so the chances aren't in my favor enough to make me feel comfortable enough to shoot my shot. Now, first things first, let's talk about BBLG. So BBLG, this is a small float, so it has 3 million float and a market cap of 26 million. I really like that. And like 26 million on a market cap is pretty good. 3 million float, that's actually a small float. And that's very volatile for me. That makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. On that note, I'll go to NTRB. This is another small cap with a slightly bigger float at 40 million. This gets a little bit closer to my comfort area in terms of volatility and potential liquidity that can go into there. You go into IMMX. This is another small float, has a similar market cap. And out of the last three we saw, they're all in the healthcare sector, and they're on downtrending charts around $4. These are tickers that can easily just parabolic or spike, and knowing that they're in a very volatile sector, they're low price stocks, and they have a small float, that gives me a certain anxiety that just doesn't sit right when I go into a short. At the end of the day, I can just shoot my shot and get what I want and then have a fixed risk. But with that, I'd like a pretty decent amount of range, and these barely fit that amount. Let's go to the next. We got RELI. This is where the float gets a little bit higher. It's at 10 million, and I'm okay with that. I like 10 million. And then you got the market cap of 68 million. Now that's something I can roll with. I like the market cap to be under like 100. Preferably actually something closer to 30, like under 50 at least. But this is something I'd work with. It's also a $5 to like $10 stock. And so that's another like manageable price range I would like to see. It's a finance sector, so it's not as volatile. And so, I could put my faith in holding a short on that. It just might be a little slower than normal. With LIXT, this is another small float. Market cap's like pretty low. And it's a health sector. And the price it's really small. So it fits into the same category as the other health sectors that we saw. But that volatility, if we do it right, it's going to be great. Now, with that out of the way, those were the fundamentals. I want to get into why I didn't trade them. But at the same time, they're still tradable. Just not enough for me. So let's go to DTST. This was... It looks like it was a bounce short. So the bounce short, we pretty much went to half the run up area and used this 40 million volume and added it to, we pretty much use this 40 million volume as a resistance, and it didn't reach as far as we thought it would. That's pretty much why I didn't go in. Yeah, like that's kind of self-explanatory, to where this one, if we zoom in a little bit, go to 2 month, 15 minute, it went from $3 to $5. And so that's not 100%. That's $2 on a $3 stock. So the 66%. Minimum, I'm looking for something around like 70. But at the same time, as long as it's above 50, I technically can go in a little bit earlier. It had a higher potential of going down, especially just looking at the SPY during that time, which, January 5th, you could see that, everything was just downtrending at that point. So I could have shot my shot, but it didn't meet the amount of range that would make me feel comfortable. So we're going to take that out. But that was just a runner. It was a runner with some type of resistance at the top. It was a very light resistance, but it was still something worth trading, but not worth tracking, if that makes sense. Because I'm looking for a minimum around a range and resistance and things like that. But all the pieces were there. So you could have shot your shot. You could have made money. So there's FOMO there if you were only looking for money. So that's what I'm going to say. Next, we'll go to LIXT. LIXT, this was another runner, to where the day that I missed it was the 4th. And so in the after hours of the 4th, you saw this go from $1.35 to $3. And so that's a good over 100%. And if we go into the details a little bit, you'll see it open at $3. And so with that range created, even if there wasn't a resistance like the previous ticker, this runner was still worth shorting into, especially since it's over 100%. But at the time, what turned me off to not shorting this was it's a 4 million float. It's in the health sector, and it's not only under $5, but under $3, under way too much for me to comfortably go in. And the size that I wanted to go in was something closer to like 4K, probably 5K, if I did go in. If I remember right, I probably over borrowed on this, or there weren't any borrows left. And that just gave me a signal that me as a variable, which is known as like the trader, I'm not in the right mindset to do this. And so I should just skip it because it's going to be better for me in the long run, which it is. Even I can even show you my mindset. And so it is better for me in the long run. So I was right. Okay. But that's how I do it. Now, next we'll go into, let's do like 3 more and then we'll end it right there. We talked about IMMX. So IMMX is, if I remember right, this was something closer to like an overextended gap down. Yeah, this is the IPO that went from $3.30 to $8. And then it found some support around the $8 area, where if we, again, zoom in a little bit, we'll see this went from $3 to $8, came back, then tested the 380 area. I said 380, the 770 area. And eventually it looked like it was respecting the resistance around like the $8 to 770 area. And with that, we can kind of use the same principles we would for an overextended gap down to short this into the open here after it gapped down. And with that, we watched this several times in the stream to where it was tradable on each of these days. Like when it ran back up to this area, this was a bounce short. And so The first day, this was 150 million. And so we could have used this consolidation up here as a safe space to short into. And at the end of the day, I didn't take the shot. And so this is one mistrade. Now, when it came back after it didn't get all the reward from like all this range, because the max we'd be looking for was somewhere closer to like probably like 470. So right there. Main thing is we knew that it was gonna bounce, and when we woke up and it's already at like 7, that gave us another idea that we can use this layer of resistance and match it with that layer and get somewhere in between. And then we even had a second chance at the back of the day to go at the same level that we did the day before, which was $8. And the chances of that actually breaking both these tops were pretty low. Even though, remember why I was feeling bad, was because this is a 4 million float with a healthcare ticker. And with that, it also reached the dollar block and a few other like smaller factors that made it a lot easier to trust. Because remember, that first day it had 150 million. Second day had 60 million. This day it barely went to 30. And so when it went up to that $8, we could have trusted that this could have came back down. Now all this is just like from my memory. But these are the things that like you miss when you're trying to be perfect. But at the same time, you have to remember, trading doesn't always translate very well. It's somewhere between a science and an art. And I'm trying to master the art after I learn the science. And getting between that point it's a lot harder than you would think. And that's all I'm really going to say about that. Same thing with this ticker. That's all I'm going to say about this ticker. Except, I would have went in again, or I had the potential on the 12th, where it went back up and tested that same area that's been respected like three times already. And so this is 4 or 5 opportunities to make a short that were just missed. Now we're going to delete that. One I'll leave you off on is like one of the biggest, it's not a regret, but one of the biggest opportunities missed because of stubbornness and trying to be somewhat perfect. So this one is DEWAC. If you know anything about it, it's Trump's ticker. It's his response to someone else that made a ticker before, and he's like, I'm gonna make my own ticker. And he did. He kept his word. Now the thing is, this went from $10 to $170. It came back down over 4 days, and during those 4 days, it tested the 105, the 120, and then like somewhere in like the 80s, like pretty well. We can't really see the good details of that, but we knew that there was resistance from like the 80s to the 120. Mostly aiming for the 100 is what I was going for. And so if we, go zoom forward, we'll see that it took 6 days from this to go from 50 to the lower 90s. I was aiming for the like 96 to like 105 before I shot any kind of shot in terms of making a position. Now, with that in mind, I ignored what was happening in the SPY, which, it's been constantly downtrending since the 5th. And, no penny stock has been holding its spike lately. And so I feel like there's some type of indirect trend between the SPY and the penny stocks, but not a direct trend because it doesn't directly mirror what's happening in the SPY and QQQ. But there's some type of indirect relationship. But on that note, that should have led me to at least taking some kind of shot when right out of the open, there was no bounce. And up to this point, all the penny stocks were doing the same thing. no bounce at the open, and then just straight dies. I was expecting this pull right here not to be 92 to what is that, like 80. I was expecting something closer to the pull to like 88, 87, then come back up and do some tests and stuff like that. No, after this pull happened, that didn't end up being a pull. That became a crack, like a crack of the entire range created. And then that just led to a waterfall. I knew after this point there was going to be a bounce. And like, I predicted the bounce right, but I'm still mad about the crack. And under the influence that, hey, maybe this has a chance to come back up. And it almost looked like it did. At the end of the day, I didn't shoot my shot like I should have, either on the bounce or during like this panic. With this crack right here, I don't feel as guilty, but with the bounces, especially the second one in the second day, I do feel a little bit guilty about not taking my shot. Just to throw a little fire in their wound, Steven Ducks, he was sharing with other friends and students. He's like, hey, DWAC is going down when it hits this area. I have so many friends that are just beginners, and like they made a lot just following his alerts and his advice on like this going down. And like they went from like 86 to like $60 because like he told them like when to go in, and then they just walked away, like just straight walked away. And he's just like, yeah, everybody should cover now. And like they pretty much top ticked it and bottom ticked it. And now I'm just sitting here with all the FOMO in the world. At the end of the day, at least I'm doing what I think is right. And so I'm eventually going to get better after I start executing something. So on that note, that should be enough for one video. Main thing, like as a little recap or summary, I just want to say this is what it looks like when you miss a trade, when you're aiming for your ideals, but you have to understand that you don't have to hit the ideal each time to make money, and understand what makes you the money, like the risk reward and the factors that influence the stock. At the end of the day, I only have a little bit of regret, a little bit of FOMO, because I know everything's going to be right in the long run. All right, guys, so we're at the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the recap of all the opportunities that slipped through my hands this month. Remember, at the end of the day, I stuck to my ideals. I sat on my hands. I did what I wanted, but there was a lot more stubbornness that needed to be a part of the entire equation, and a lot of money was left on the table. If I put down my pride or did the actual minimum and scaled my positions to the appropriate opportunity that was given to me at that time, I could have gained at least the minimum and then built a certain amount of confidence in getting those small wins to prepare me for the next trade, especially up to DWAC, which at the end of the day, I feel like that was avoidable, and me not going in was a mistake. Outside of that, if you like what you saw, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.